Boom. Okay, nobody noticed that. All right, we're back. This is attempt at starting number 3. And as usual, I am still Blaine. That's my son in the background who thinks dabbing is still relevant. Um, and
It's relevant.
okay, and then the stream is actually up.
Oh,
So as usual, like I said, I'm still Blaine. Anthony is still Tony, but also Anthony. Ernesto is still Ernesto, and Ernie, and Big Love. And Pamela is joining us for the first time this week. I'm sorry if I don't know how to say Pamela in Spanish properly, but Pamela. I don't know.
You
got it.
That's the one.
You got it.
So yeah, we could just keep saying her name all night. I don't know. It might be more interesting. So anyway, this is the last one before Christmas, and this is the last one for the year. We're all tired. We're all ready to talk about games. Anyone that declares their game of the year in this episode may be put to death. Because I am adamant that we're holding off on that shit until next year. Anyone that watched my
relevant.
What?
When it's no longer relevant.
No, because it is fucking relevant, because all these outlets are like, oh, it's Thanksgiving. What's the game of the year? And that's not how we do shit around here.
So what's the game that's coming out next week that you want to hold your judgment back for?
It's
sure.
a Portal Bridge Builder or whatever.
Well, you know what? Here, I'll text Mike real quick and have him tell me. He'll look at the GameStop list while he's giving people discounts live online. And so anyway, yeah, I introduced everybody. What comes after that? Oh yeah, what you've been playing. So, Pamela.
Me.
Yeah, why don't you get us started?
Oh, me. Oh, what I've been playing lately. So lately,
And what you're playing this weekend too.
Oh, I'm playing this weekend too. Okay, perfect. So I tried Destiny 2 a couple of days ago. I'm not an online player, but I was kind of like, I had a great time with Destiny 1, so I wanted to try it off. And so far, the campaign's been kind of fulfilling whatever I was expecting of a Bungie with their crisp mechanics in the shooter and the FPS. So far that's good, but I don't know how much it's gonna hold with me because I'm, like I said, I don't play online, so I'm not sure how long I'm gonna be still playing that. But so far I'm having fun shooting people.
Does it even let you play single player? Like,
oh yeah, yeah. They have a campaign. It's almost like 4 to 4 hours and a half. I think it lasts. It's pretty short. So I've been playing that. I haven't played that much, but so far so good. It feels good to kill.
You can get to the max level pretty fast in the campaign.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not that long, but the meat of the game is in the online. So
yeah.
Well, and you said you loved the first Destiny, but you said you're not an online player.
Yeah, the first Destiny, I had a community that I was able to play with.
Oh, okay. That makes all the difference.
Yeah, for this one, I don't have it. So that makes the game to be like a short experience for me, sadly, in that aspect. But I still have Overwatch in the side, so I guess that's it.
what I've seen that you enjoy about Destiny is not so much the game content, but how it feels. Like you are always talking about how good the shooting feels in Destiny.
It feels amazing. It feels amazing. And after playing Overwatch, which was kind of introducing me to do more FPS characters, like to do first person shooters, I feel really confident playing Destiny 2. But see, I don't play online, so I don't know how good I am, but I really enjoy it. It feels really witty. You can feel the physics of the gun, which is pretty cool.
So is Destiny? Oh, go ahead, Tony.
Well, I understand eschewing playing online for competitive based games, but was there a reason that you weren't even wanting to play like with randos during the campaign, or Or you just plan on dropping it after the campaign's done? It's just a curiosity question.
Just most likely I'm gonna do that. I don't know how I still play Overwatch, to be completely honest, because just the online community intimidates me like a lot. But besides that, I don't know. Let's see how much I like the gameplay, like the gunplay, to the point that I say, hey, I want to try to do PvP, or I want to try to do a raid, and just throw myself playing online. But I haven't feel like that comfort zone yet. That is because I'm a really shy person. I like more playing single player games. This is not my type of game, but I heard so many beautiful things about how good and accurate it feels to play with the gun that I just wanted to try it. So, and it feels good. It feels pretty good. I feel powerful.
I was thinking about buying a second copy just so that we could play co-op, but I don't know, because my thing about Destiny is I feel like once I'm done with the story, there's not really that much else out there. Once you do the not the story, sorry. Once you do the raid, it's like you're pretty much done. And then
Well,
What else?
There's the gear grind.
yeah, but I'm
Yeah.
not interested in that.
Right. Yeah, you're either a gear grind person or you're not.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's right. Oh,
Diablo.
well, and actually, Ernesto, you got a present last week, didn't you?
Well,
Did you?
yes.
He's like, oh, what?
Yes, what are you talking about?
I don't know. I mean, because you're like, oh, I can get a second copy of Destiny, and I'm like, how is he going to play two copies at once? Oh,
No, because we have two different PS4s.
yeah, I know. And you got one last week.
Yeah,
That's the copy.
but I
that
got the copy that she gifted me of Destiny. That's the one she's playing. I haven't been able to play it yet.
Okay, so
Here,
Winning,
enjoy. Oh, I'm gonna play
I'm
this.
gonna
By
play
the way.
oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh man. So, here's your present. I'll be back in a few weeks.
Right. Oh, you're busy playing Wolfenstein, so I'll be playing this in the meantime. Like, gee, thanks.
Well, you know what? Also, Jay plays on PS4. So
Oh, really?
yeah, so you guys could get like a group going or something.
Sure. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Nice.
Yeah. So, and actually, technically, I have it on PS4 as well. I think I played for an hour, and then I was like, "This is hard." And and actually, we're going to talk more about my inability to play hard games in a bit. But so, Pam, why don't you continue?
So yeah, I was trying Destiny 2 and I really liked it. On the other hand, I've been playing along with Ernesto Ni no Kuni 2. Ni no Kuni,
I
sorry.
wish we were playing
The
together.
2, I wish. That's in March, right? Okay.
March,
I've been.
yeah.
I was going to say, I was like, you get an advanced copy?
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm the best.
We're already at
sorry.
that level in one of rejects that we started getting
Yeah.
advanced copy.
Free stuff. No. The first Ni no Kuni. And so far I've been enjoying that game. It's a little bit sad because I've been trying to start that game so many times, but just because circumstances of life have been getting on the way, so I haven't been able to kind of like dip in. But currently I'm being pretty far compared with the other times that I started the game, and I really do like it. I really like Ghibli sort of story art, so it gives me that feeling that I'm inside a Ghibli film. I like the RPG, I like the gameplay. It's just really well done.
So the one thing, every time I saw it, because I really like Studio Ghibli, and that's what everybody kept coming back to that and saying it's like you're in the movie. But
Yeah.
at the same time, the biggest sort of criticism that I saw, and this is just me personally, was it looked more like a Pokemon game
Yeah.
versus a traditional RPG. So is
Wait, Ni no Kuni's Pokemon?
Basically.
Yeah.
So you got to catch them all.
Not
You
in that
don't
sense.
feel compelled to catch them all, but you do need to get as many as you can to have a good chance of finishing the game.
So it's another cockfighting simulator.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess. So the
Okay.
way it works is you're running around, right? and you get these creatures called familiars, and they have different stats, and very much like Pokemon, you can basically breed them and make them evolve and all this Pokemon stuff. But the difference is that the battle system, you can actually switch between using the little monsters and using your main character, and you actually kind of have to swap constantly because your main character is the magician, so he's the healer, so you have to like swap back and forth.
And also the like the how is it called then? Animus. Animus is the name. Anyway, those creatures that you have, they have a stamina, so it's not like you can use them during the entire battle because they're gonna get tired and they're gonna break and they're gonna do as many damage as they need to. So you need to be swapping between different characters.
So is this real time? Is it active
Yeah.
turn
Yes,
battle,
it
or
is.
is it turn
It's
based?
real time.
It's real time, and the battle system is kind of weird. Like once you press attack, you'll see a timer running out, and while that timer is going, he'll keep attacking.
So in order to interrupt that, for example, to defend because the your enemy is gonna attack you, you need to press to cancel and then kind of switch to defend and just execute the action.
So it's kind of like an MMO, like
Yeah, it has like
Yeah.
an MMO-ish thing going on.
It is like a hybrid baby gameplay. Like it has a lot of elements from different
So,
games.
so you have your character attacking, and he'll keep attacking until the timer runs out. But if you see the other enemy like charging for an attack, you can cancel out of the attack phase, so to speak, and then go into guard phase or whatever it is you want to do.
Yeah.
And you gotta manage that constantly. It gets actually very complicated.
Yeah, it
So-
gets intense.
So Pam, you got anything else?
Well, that's it. Those are my
Okay.
two.
All right, Mark, how about you?
Hey, Mark!
Hello.
Didn't even see. Didn't even realize.
Mark, you're muted. Unmute yourself. Oh my goodness. We're gonna have to go back to using sign language again. Oh, Pam, do you actually know sign language?
No.
Oh, okay.
I tried.
Or if anyone's ever seen Congo, like Amy Good Gorilla, Amy Good Gorilla. So Mark, are you Good Gorilla? What's going on, brother? Yeah, we still can't hear you. So,
That's an awesome conversation going on here.
so Mark, we'll come back to you. Or if you want, you can hold up signs saying, "I've been playing Skyforce Reloaded." And what was that? Oh, I think oh no, it's Tony talking about the free Steam game, the culture book something. I don't know. So Ernesto, tell us about Wolfenstein.
Wolfenstein is freaking awesome. I am enjoying it so much. It's a weird game because the way it starts out is so bad. Like it's like the most generic war shooter. Like just go to this point, kill these enemies, move on, and it gets so boring. And I had tried to play it like twice before, but I
This
would
is one,
stop.
right? This is
Yeah,
the first one.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
So I kept stopping, like, oh man, I'm not really feeling this. And then I finally took it up again because I kept hearing amazing things about the second. I'm like, I gotta play the first. And I passed that first chapter, and suddenly it turns so awesome. You get this cutscene which kind of like moved things forward in a way I didn't expect it to. And then it turns into a really cool first-person adventure game. I mean, it's a shooter, but it has elements of like stuff you would find in I don't know, like a Half-Life or a BioShock, stuff like that.
People
Like, you-
raved about the narrative. I remember that.
The
People were
narrative
raving.
is so good. Like the story is great. The characters are so well made. Like even regular NPCs you won't see again, they're really good. I ran into this. Like I'll try to keep it down with the spoilers. I mean, no spoilers, but I came across this lady who had lost her wedding ring, and like she was crying about it. And then you go and find the ring, and it's this whole story, and it's just an NPC that you could have totally missed. and the story is just the way it's going. I'm really impressed. It's turning into one of my favorite games of the year because I played it this year, but definitely one of my favorite experiences this year.
Yeah, because I actually put it down for exactly the reason you were describing, where I don't know. Part of it is I'm just a terrible person and really impatient.
Mm.
And if something doesn't hook me really fast, then I'm like, oh, I'll come back to it in a week. And then 6 months go by and I'll fire it up and I'm like, what was I doing?
Yeah,
And then I'll replay the intro, but I'm like, oh my God, I'm so tired of this.
yeah.
Yeah. So
No, the thing too is for first person shooters like for like Call of Duty or a Battlefield or something, I always like to play it in the hardest difficulty. And in this one, the game is freaking hard. So I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just gonna drop it to the easiest difficulty because I want to see what the hell if actually the story is that good, and it is. And then I actually turned it up to normal once I was enjoying the game again.
I was really hoping you were going to leave it on easy and play it Blaine style.
I actually leave it on easy mode for games like Fallout or Dragon Age or games that I know I'm going to be spending like upwards of 80 hours. The combat is not the thing; it's the exploration and the quest. So for those kind of games, but for shooters, I like the challenge. I like
Okay.
feeling like I'm actually doing something.
Let's do a quick mic check on Mark, who just turned around. Oh, and he walked away.
He's like, "Screw you guys."
Thank you, Mark.
What else you got?
So real quick, I've also been playing the Zelda DLC. I'm kind of disappointed in it right now, to be honest. The way it was advertised, it was gonna be like they said it was gonna be a story heavy. It was gonna be a story DLC focusing on characters that were not really really explained in the original game. Um, you do have some cutscenes explaining the story, but it's more gameplay than anything, and it's more like challenge shrines and challenge rooms. Not really feeling it right now. You get to like revisit areas and do different new shrines, but it's all within areas you already explored. And for someone like me who spent 200 hours in the game, I'm not seeing anything new, except for the shrines are actually very well done. It's what's keeping me playing the DLC. But area wise, I've been there, I've done this already, and it's kind of like bringing me down a bit. But the cutscenes that you get that explain the story of the champion characters are really well done. It's just I expected it to be more story focused, especially after I just finished playing the Frozen Wilds from Horizon. I thought it was gonna be something like that, like a new area to explore, a new storyline, and it wasn't that. So I was kind of disappointed.
But to be fair though, what Zelda has been that. I mean,
Thank you.
never had a narrative. It's so really they're just doubling down on what the game already was for the most part. And I understand like the trailer was so story heavy that they keep trying to advertise Breath of the Wild as a game that it isn't, which is sort of a weird disconnect.
Mm.
But it sounds like it's more of why you enjoyed the game. It's just there's that marketing, it just is throwing you off a little bit from an expectation standpoint.
Right. No, it's totally that. It's my thing is I totally thought it was gonna be a new area, or you were gonna go back in the past or something, and you were gonna see new stuff. But I had already seen the whole map. I did all the 120 shrines, so I've been everywhere in the map, and not seeing anything new was kind of like, yeah, it's a little disappointing. It's totally fault of the marketing. If I had gone in like blind and thinking it was just a challenge mode or whatever, I'd been totally fine. Also, because I already been 200 hours playing the game, I feel like I'm done finally. Like I'm done with Breath of the Wild. So yeah, I'm having conflicted emotions basically.
I don't know only that, like the main story of Breath of the Wild is something that is optional, that actually you have to collect it. It's not inherited. Like you can go and fight Gundam if you want, and you don't have to find those memories or those collectibles to build the main story of the main game. So
But Ganon's in it. Spoilers.
oh
I'm kidding.
Damn you!
What were you gonna say, Anthony?
No, now I don't even remember. So I was just going to double down though. That is the weird thing, the way that the story's presented in the game. I think I brought this up a few
Yeah,
weeks
last
ago.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just a side quest, and that side quest
Mhm.
is basically collect every cutscene in the game, which is a weird way to go about it. But if you look through every Zelda game, they've never had a grasp on. They've let you playing in that world tell the story versus actually showing a cutscene. I mean, Nintendo really hasn't been in the cutscene world, as crazy as that sounds. And even though we can look back like 15 years worth of cutscenes, how many cutscene heavy Nintendo games have been made?
All right.
Like none. Look at Metroid. Look at Mario. Look at every one of their major franchises tells a story through gameplay, not through cutscenes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's the marketing like focus with the cutscenes, and then you don't really regularly see cutscenes. That's the fault. Yeah.
Because I
Let's
mean,
get some. That's the only thing that Nintendo did was they had one dude that just was like, "How do we advertise games? Oh, make it like a movie trailer."
Yeah.
That makes sense.
and oh, hey, Dav Lenati, what's up, buddy? Are you who I think you are? I think you might be. So,
Look at the surprise. Oh,
yeah.
she must be you.
but yeah, but it's interesting because with Zelda, like I'm kind of an outsider looking in on this. I've played Zelda games, like I just not many and not in a while. I think the last one I played actually was my favorite one, which was the second one for N64,
Majority.
where the fucking moon's gonna hit the planet, and yeah, your dog's doing just fine. So actually, yeah, I've got some fun pictures of your dog and my dog, but not in that way. So, but anyway, yeah. So like Zelda, I mean, it seems like historically has been mechanics driven rather than narrative driven, where like the narrative is kind of a nice bit of icing on top of the excellent mechanics. Is Link voiced in this one?
No.
No.
Other than the
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The four main guardians, Zelda, the king. I mean, they're all voiced, but even then, only part of the time.
Yeah.
Okay. Because yeah, I remember the one of the N64 games. There was that piece of shit that would fly around you and go, "Hey!"
Yeah, that's not.
And, like I was like, I've never needed a fly swatter more, ever. But so, and I wish Mark hadn't left because I know he's actually played Breath Breath of the Wild. But he played the Wii U version. I was curious. Actually, did the expansions come to the Wii U?
I don't know.
Good
Anyone know?
question.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Oh, actually, they did. They did. I have a friend playing it, and I just realized he's playing on the Wii U. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's a kid who works across from me. Like he's another developer, and he was the one like he basically poop socked Mario. Where I sent him home early, and then he came back the next day and he's like, "I beat it." And,
I still haven't finished it, so that's crazy to me.
well, but then he modified that statement a day or two later. But he was like, "Well, I played through the game, but there's still a bunch of whatever things to collect, and
Right.
The
lately the Mario's like they make it real easy for you to get to the credits, and then like the real game opens up.
Okay, so it's like an MMO or Destiny.
Sure.
Well, I'm just saying because like Destiny, like
Yeah.
you could play through the campaign in one sitting.
Well, so,
Yeah, if
so
you're-
Mario though is more like now to get to World 2 you need, let's say, 20% of the collectibles, and then to get to
Oh,
3 now collect 30%. So whichever ones you choose to get, and the different collectibles will just be either this is hard to find versus this is skill based versus this is exploratory. So basically you can choose your strength and still get to the credits. At least that's the
Okay.
idea behind it.
okay.
The reason why it's taking me so long is because let's say, you need 20 whatever's to get to the other stage. I go past the 20. I keep getting until I don't see anything, and I keep exploring over and over, and then I move on. So I'll get like 60.
It's because your mindset is more like completionist. Me, on the other hand, I'm like, okay, what is the minimum required? Let me explore a little bit, and then let's move on. Let's go to the next.
Right.
So it depends of your mindset.
Yeah, it's interesting. Is I was talking along those lines. I was talking to somebody in the public house about. Oh, it's my friend Kim, where she's like just the completionist, hardcore, crazy, amazing, and it just like she's got a brag sheet like a mile long in terms of gaming. And I was telling her, I was like, I rarely look at the achievements. Like I like getting them, and so when I accidentally do something well enough to get one, I'm like, oh, cool.
Like getting all the achievements in Soma.
Well, God, that's so funny. Yeah, like the only game I've ever 100%ed, and you can't not 100% it if you play through it. Actually, God, I was looking at a game the other day that had one achievement. Oh, what was it? Oh God, I can't remember. But I was like, what? And it was basically like, if you finish the game, here's your one achievement. But anyway, but I was telling her, like, the only game that I've ever been sort of an achievement hunter with was this year, which was Horizon Zero Dawn, because I was enjoying the game so much that like before I finished it, I'm like, is there anything achievement wise that's like that looks fun to do? And some of them looked fun, and I went and did them, and yeah, I don't know, but I know what you mean. Like that was the rare time where I was like, oh, I'm gonna go chase things down in order to do it, and I'm gonna take on challenges, which I rarely ever do in games. Like I usually try to sneak past them if I can, because I'm like, oh, you look like you're gonna take a lot of time, so fuck off. So what else you got, Ernesto?
So the last thing, I'll go over it real quick because I haven't had as much time with it. But I got a loaned PlayStation VR.
Uh-huh.
So I've been trying that. It's actually pretty cool. It's way better than I thought it was gonna be. I still have it on that gimmick category. Like for now, I don't think it's gonna be doing anything like incredible gaming wise for me to actually buy one. But it is really fun to try it out. And if I had the spare money, I would keep it. Like it's really cool. But one thing I didn't realize.
Well,
what were you gonna say?
Well, when you're talking about it's more gimmicky now, is that because of graphic fidelity because it's a PSVR? Is that because of the crappy move controllers, or is that just because of the implementation of the games themselves?
All three, to be honest. The move controllers are really clunky. The interface, the way you control the games, because how do I explain this? Because of the motion sickness that you get being in VR, they have to make constraints to the way you move. So a lot of games, instead of you actually moving in the game, you'll like point and click to stuff, and the game will automatically move you there. And that kind of bothered me. Like,
I hate that.
Yeah, it's not like I'm expecting. I'm not expecting, but in my mind, VR should be something like, I don't know, like Ready Player One, where you're like in it, not like looking at something where you can only move your head and then click and it'll take you somewhere. I don't like that. I don't like the interaction, and the graphics are not that good either. But I mean, it is because of the way the technology is so young.
Yeah. What was the one that I have a PSVR, but I've never used it. Oh, I'm sorry. My son just corrected me. He said that he has a PSVR, and I've never touched it.
Get it together.
I think he and I will go over the fact that minors basically have no rights later. No, but there was one that I tried. It was not God. Thank you. Yes, the Vive, where you can that one actually lets you walk around.
Oh,
okay.
And
yeah, because out of the three, the PSVR is like the weakest one, right?
Yeah, but it's also the most affordable.
Yeah. Right.
And thank you, JT Leves, for the follow. We much appreciate it. Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you.
Man.
And yeah.
So what I did not expect though was the sense of scale in the VR. Like I tried Resident Evil, right? And I played this game 3 times by now. I know it by memory. Like if I close my eyes, I know exactly where to go in that house. Up to the house, and I'm like looking up, and like it's a real house, right? I'm seeing the size of it, the 2-story house. I freak out. I'm like, whoa, okay, so this is a real huge area. Like when you see it in like regular mode, you don't really like take into account the scale of it and your place in that space. But when you're in VR, like it's real. And then when I was actually walking inside and I'm going down the corridors, I started getting like a little claustrophobia. Like it's so tight, and I'm like looking to my sides, and it's like just a hallway, and I just started getting freaked the hell out. And I turned it off, man. I couldn't handle it.
Hey, you know what? Like, I'm so mad at Capcom and Sony about that, because if they hadn't had that exclusivity deal, I could have played that on Vive. And oh my God. I mean, granted, now it's not like you can walk all over the place with Vive. Like, you have to scan in the room, and it gives you indications when you're about to hit something. So there would still be an element of teleportation that you would have to do, because you would just run out of real estate.
Well, in Resident Evil, though, it allows you to free roam.
Yeah, and Resident Evil, it was the best experience actually in VR, because you have your regular control. You don't have to use the move.
Oh.
And then you just move forward with the analog stick like normal. And to move around, you can either move your head, or if you move the stick, it'll move you 30 degrees to the side each time you flick the right stick.
Huh, okay.
So you can explore the whole thing, but it's not as fast as it would be like if you're playing in regular.
So Jeremy says he was a bad completionist on a couple of the Assassin's Creeds. That's interesting. Okay, so I played like an hour of the first Assassin's Creed at Anthony's house many years ago, and I was like, this sucks, I'm never playing it again. And then Mike pressured me into buying Assassin's Creed Origins, which was okay, but I got bored.
He pressure you?
Well, because Mike and I, between the two of us, buy every game ever released. He just does them all on the PSN store, and I do them all on Steam. But
when I saw that post that you have preloaded or whatever it is called,
yeah,
Assassin's Creed Origins, I was like, who is this guy? Like,
well, I was trying something new, and it was the same thing that happens every time I try something new, which is it's just bad. I should never try new things. Just stick to my 180-hour RPGs, and that's it.
CRPGs.
Yeah, yeah, okay, CRPGs. But in terms of being a completionist in Assassin's Creed, what is that? I mean, like, because isn't it just except for Origins, it's like a linear, like you run through the level thing, right?
There's always collectibles or side.
Oh, okay.
Whatever. It's the general Ubisoft map overload that you get, where it just bombards you with icons.
Oh, dude, I have never played all the way through an Ubisoft game, and I fucking buy them all. I hate that.
To be fair, it's not just them. I mean, the Hinterlands did that to you also in Dragon Age, where it was.
Man, I still finished.
Killed me, man.
I still actually, it's funny. I'm going to talk about Inquisition in a minute. But the Hinterlands I got through, whereas like Ubisoft games, I can't. I don't know what it is, but like psychologically, I can't handle playing them for more than like a few hours, and then I have to uninstall. Like I don't know. It's not like I don't like them. It's just
when you say you got through the Hinterlands, do you mean you did everything on it, or you just did enough and then moved on?
I did everything in the Hinterlands except I think no, actually, I may have done everything. Because I'm not a completionist except when it comes to BioWare games, and that's and I bet a lot of you guys can understand this because I know the formula so well. You know, I can get in there and know what I'm doing, and yeah. Let's see. He says AC Black Flag. When you first get a pirate ship, I could not put down. I have yet to try Black Flag.
I agree. That's one of the most fun ones. Once you get the boat, you can like islands. You can go fishing. I went whale fishing. That was so awesome. You could go like underwater, like look for sunken treasures. Oh man, that game was so fun.
Actually, I just got it for free, and
Oh.
then I turned around. I got the season pass for $8 because Uplay's having a huge
Nice.
sale right now. And yeah, so I got
Okay.
Black Flag free and then season pass for $8. So I mean, that seems like a good
You
deal.
should
Maybe I'll try
definitely
it.
give it a try because I do think Black Flag is like the most welcoming to non-fans.
Huh.
If I look at all of them, I think Black Flag's the one I spent the most time with, and I played through all of them up through Black Flag because the one after it, that's the one that they basically gave you a free game to say sorry that Assassin's Creed game was completely broken.
Oh yeah, yeah, that was
I
so
forget
bad.
if it was Unity or something. 'Cause
Yeah,
I remember-
Unity.
Yeah, I actually pre-ordered it because I played through all of them, and then they gave me Far Cry 4 for free, sort of as a oops. Sorry
Ooh,
about that.
Yeah,
And
I
then
got Far Cry
never-
too.
Yeah, and then Far Cry was another one that I tried for like 2 hours and was like, eh.
Far Cry 3 was pretty good. I didn't finish it
Yeah,
because it's an Ubi game. So,
Yeah, that was the
Three's really
problem. Is
good.
the free games had to be an Ubi game.
and it's funny because Ubisoft games, like, they're not technically bad, well, except for Unity. And but there's something about them that isn't quite as immersive as like BioWare games or I don't know what else do people play. I have no idea.
Well,
Uh,
it's funny that you bring up BioWare games though, because the biggest reason you can be a completionist is because every side missions basically go to this planet, which is really just a corridor. It'll take you about 15 minutes to run through.
Well, yes and no. I'm trying to not be defensive about BioWare games. It's really hard for me, especially nowadays.
Just
But-
do it.
Well,
No, don't encourage him.
okay, so I'll tell you what. This is a very nice, natural segue into what I've been playing.
Okay.
Okay.
And I'm gonna go backwards, kind of like that movie with the guy who can't remember anything.
Memento.
Memento. That's the one.
Yeah.
So I've been frustrated with trying to find a game to just latch onto that's not an MMO because I'm back in my MMO thing, and that's all I'm really feeling like playing. But I'm getting a little bit of burnout from that because I'm playing so much. And I've had this off and on replay of Dragon Age Inquisition. I'm doing a female Kunari playthrough. She's a rogue. It's, so Inquisition, was BioWare's attempt to really break out of their, the BioShock talks about the illusion of choice, and BioWare was kind of the master of that, where yes, their games were sort of like go here or do it in any order you want, but there was always a preferred route. Like you always want to do this planet first in KOTOR, and then you want to do this planet, et cetera, and so on. Whereas with Inquisition, they're really trying to break out of that. I'm not surprised Rachel's played Inquisition 4 times. That girl can rock through RPGs. So I'm playing through it today, and I'm like, why haven't I stuck with this? Like, I played through it once before, and I remember certain parts being a slog, where there was so much filler in Inquisition. And I think BioWare mistook the open world formula for being lots of filler. Like, if you play through Skyrim, if you're somebody who's able to play through Skyrim, a lot of it is filler, but it feels like there's more consequence to it than a lot of the go collect 8 fucking flowers and whatever. But the key problem with Inquisition though is the goddamn combat is so bad. It is awful, and it's funny because the first 2 Dragon Age games, the combat's actually quite good. Like it's the best in the first one.
I was gonna say it's the. I'm surprised that now I think better of the combat in the second than in Inquisition.
Absolutely, dude. And the problem is that I'm sitting there with the mouse and I'm doing this for like minutes, and there's no tactical thought to it. It's just like these enemies are just mob trash. We need to get through it. And you know, and like it took the worst parts of MMOs and started using it, and which is trash mobs and just, you know, fucking be on autopilot for you know, long stretches at a time. And it's weird too, because like the first Dragon Age, I mean, combat wise is one of my favorite games of all time. Like Knights of the Old Republic and Dragon Age both. I love the combat.
It's
That-
so great.
That's because you were pausing, queuing up actions, and then
Yep.
watching them execute.
Well,
Dragon
you're
Age
using
2
strategy.
Well, Dragon Age 2 and 3, I played using a 360 controller.
Well, 2 on PC, you could still do the tactical combat like in the first one. On console, it was stripped down.
In the third one, like you can do it, but it's I don't know. I didn't saw it like feasible. Like
Well, because they
it's better to
reduced,
just spam attack, like you say.
and like, but part of it was, and Mass Effect Andromeda sort of confirmed this for me. And I talked about this on here before, where Mass Effect Andromeda, they were blatant in the fact that they wanted to unify the combat systems for single player and multiplayer. And Inquisition, looking back, that was the same thing, where the combat, the only difference between the two is that you can pause mid combat and single player, but otherwise the two play identical. And from a development costs perspective, I get it, but fuck, it's so bad. I can't believe I did that for 100 and something hours.
Me
My,
too.
my first playthrough. I'm like, Jesus, like, and I don't know. I mean, I'm still gonna one day finish this playthrough, but and maybe it's because I've been playing so many MMOs lately, where like trash mobs are like the rule. But yeah, I don't know. So that's that about Inquisition, and but yeah, otherwise, I gave up on Metro 2033, and it's like one of the most shameful rage quits I've ever had. It's too hard. Like
Is there no easy mode in it?
I was playing fucking easy mode.
Oh shit!
And the problem is, and see, I see Tony making the face. Okay, hold on. Let me explain. So, I give the game kudos for trying to be fairly realistic in terms of post-apocalyptic survival. And I'm a really bad gamer. I just suck at video games, except for the strategy part. As long as I don't have to think while I'm moving. As long as I can pause and think, I'm okay. So the thing that's killing me in Metro is the gas mask mechanic, where you have a finite number of filters, and each of those filters.
Wait, how can this be? I thought that you got through just a week ago saying how the new
I
Metro
was gonna say
different
that.
because you're not in the subway the whole time.
I'm not here to
I thought you
talk
said
about the
you would never
past.
go to the-
Round one, fight.
I'm not here to talk about the past. I mean, if you guys want to keep bringing up old shit,
Okay.
So are you saying you're gonna kill it if you have to?
yeah, let the past die. Kill it if you have to. Yeah. Okay. So there's a brief moment on the surface that was long enough to kill me, and I read up on this mechanic, and it's clever, but I fucking hate it. Where if you jump or run a lot, you deplete your filters faster, which makes sense.
Yeah, the guns are also shit in that game too, where they'll just like,
Yeah.
raid and everything, and your bullets, you can get shitty bullets. Like there's a
Yep.
quality of bullet.
Yeah, actually, bullets I think is the currency in the game.
Yeah. And so you want to shoot as little as possible, run as little as possible, and jump as little as possible. And
or not move,
what?
or not move at all.
Yeah, well, or just lie on the ground dead like I do a lot. What sucks too is it takes you a long time to die, and I
Mm.
kept dying, and so it kept taking a long time for me to die, and I would sit there screaming at the screen like, "Just fucking die already!"
Is there no way to like hit pause and just retry?
You can't. Well, like I kept hitting escape, and it would have to go through this long animation, and then once it was done, showing you how much you suck,
So
Then-
you haven't brought up the other side effect of the mask is that it's you take damage, you can get it
Yeah.
cracked.
Yeah.
You don't see shit.
You know the most fun about that part? I played through the first time I played through it was on 360, and there was a glitch where after taking damage and your screen was cracked, you wouldn't ever be able to fix it.
Oh.
So like I had a save game quote unquote corrupted because I couldn't see shit.
Well, and mine, it did an autosave right before a big shootout, and I'm almost depleted on my last filter. And so no matter what happens from that save point, I'm going to die. Now, here's the other part. I'm a huge fucking PC gamer elitist. And I'm like, oh, it's too hard. That's not a problem. I'll just cheat. I do that in every other game. And this game is one of the hardest to mod and cheat. And I was looking at what's involved because I'm like, all I need is just a few more filters. If I get a few more filters, I'm fine. Nope. And like I was looking at what's involved to do this, and I was like, that's not worth my time. Even though,
Damn.
like I was saying in another week, I love the book series. I'm just, for now, I'm done with Metro as a game. I will come back maybe someday.
See, Metro is one of them. It's weird. Like I liked the first game, but the second game, I didn't need it. Like I got probably 4 hours in or so. It was pretty far in, and like it's one of those games that I respect more than I enjoy playing.
Okay, yeah. Like a lot of Piranha Bytes games, yeah.
I got bored, honestly, and I was really I like the world a lot. I should actually just read the books because the world is so interesting to me, but the game is, I don't know. It's missing something.
I highly recommend the books. They're good.
Yeah, the atmosphere and everything, what they accomplished with making the game was incredible. And that's what made me want to play through it. But the moment to moment was sort of boring and somewhat depressing.
Oh yeah, it's very depressing.
All right. These gameplay elements on paper that they sound so good, like, oh, the gas man, you have to manage it. And it's like, oh man, that's so cool. And then when you actually play it, man, it's annoying as hell.
Well, we started
And
off
then-
talking about how good Destiny 2 felt, and this is like the opposite. And it's
Yeah.
funny just coming from Mass Effect also. And Mass Effect was okay with them trying to be a shooter, but you wouldn't call it a top tier shooter. This is just jank. I mean, it's you never feel comfortable shooting at anything in the game.
But
And
I
it's
think that's
not-
intentional.
well, some of it I could blame on, the weapon degradation and nothing's in good shape. And some of it's just, they're not good at making
Bad
a fluid
programming.
shooter.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, and actually, yeah, I mean, along those lines, you look at the first Mass Effect versus the third one, and
Yeah, it was the same way. Or even the first Witcher. I mean, the third Witcher game was much more fluid. The second one, they even did a do-over on the combat.
yeah, well, it's funny because like all three of the Witcher games, the combat's totally different, and like where the first one is basically DDR with a mouse, like where you're having to maintain a rhythm while you're doing it, and and then the
Oh, yeah, I
second
remember you have the logo with the mouse pointer. Yeah.
and then the second one, I'm trying to remember. Actually, I don't even remember how the combat in that one worked.
They had the mouse or the keyboard you'd hit to switch between the different styles, which each
Right.
countered. But then they switched it to be more real time with a huge patch, like a year after the game was out, a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And then they brought out Witcher 3, which was straight on, almost no strategy. And I love Witcher 3. Like it's just that combat was not its strong point.
Well, now and we're getting a little far afield here, but this is interesting. The combat in The Witcher 3, my take on it was you had to read up. I mean, if it wasn't a trash mob, if it was like a contract or kind of a big bad, you had to actually read the codex or the journal entry, whatever it was, find its weaknesses, and then actually plan how you're going to fight this thing, and like plan what potions you're going to take first, what oils you're going to put on your blade, and because there were some that if you didn't do that, if you tried to just roll in there and fuck the guy up, you were dead. I mean, within seconds.
It's
So my
interesting because
playthrough on
that's
easy disagrees.
What?
My playthrough on easy mode sort of disagrees with that. That's a game series I played. Well, I played through Metro on easy also. So not to disparage you too much on the original Metro thing.
And
I flipped that straight to easy.
here's the funny part. I played Witcher 3 on easy also.
Oh, me
Dude,
too.
See, I told you, I'm terrible at games. I make no excuse. But yeah,
It's funny because with Metro, well, that the whole mask and the weapon management and all that stuff, it's annoying. But in Witcher, like you have you got to read up on the bestiary and find out the weakness, and even in the story, he's like, oh, I'm gonna go rest and I'm gonna prepare potions for tomorrow. But I was playing on easy; I didn't have to do any of that. But I would still do it to like role play the game and like make the story function more.
Yeah, because it's a story-driven game.
And
more
I was
than anything.
enjoying it, yeah. But I was enjoying it that way. But it would be nice if Metro could be the same. If you had that element of the gas mask, but you could drop it to easy and not have to bother with it.
well, and it's funny because like I'm one of I think Alex and I, like Alex Cortez, I think he and I are the only people I know that have played all 3 Witcher games, and I played all the way through. And for me, I played them all in order. Like I played, like the first one came out, it was jank. I didn't touch it for like a year or two, and then they released the enhanced edition or whatever it was called, where they overhauled a lot of the problems with it. And then I played through it and loved it. And actually, the alchemy system in the first one is the best alchemy system in all 3 games. And then I played 2, and actually, like I don't think I played the patch that Tony's talking about because, excuse me, like I played through 2 pretty quickly, and I remember really struggling at times. And then it's funny, there was one part where I was stuck for like a month, and then I realized it's because I was using the wrong goddamn sword. I was trying to use the beast sword on humans, and like these Nilfgaardians were just wiping the floor with me. And then once I started using the right sword, I plowed through the rest of the game. Even though the final battle in the second one's pretty hard. And somebody in the One Up Rejects Public House this past week had a good topic of like the hardest bosses or something like that you've ever fought. And the final guy in Blood and Wine is the hardest boss battle I've had in years. Like that's one of the, even on baby mode. And you know, I finish a lot of games, but if they are real-time combat, I just have a really hard time. And I don't know, like maybe it's because I've lived such a hard and difficult life. I don't know. Like, you know, these hands aren't what they used to be. Oh God, I was gonna make a filthy joke there and I won't. But regardless, I don't even know what the hell the topic is now. I'm just
You're
gonna
talking about giving up on Metro.
I know, and it just depresses me because I so badly want to like that game. But so otherwise, yeah, I've been playing a shitload of SWTOR, and it's funny how I sort of default. Like if everything else is failing me, I kind of default to SWTOR because there's still so much in that game I haven't seen yet because it's such a huge game. And yeah, so like I'm pushing through the end stages of my Jedi Knight tune, and like I've never seen the whole Jedi Knight story in that. And then I've got a Sith super badass that I'm now doing. I'm going through all the end game content with them. And then I've got my main, who is basically parked at a crafting station, and he's just crafting, you know, uber level shit for my other characters. And yeah, and then a little bit of ESO here and there. But yeah, I'm just not feeling Elder Scrolls right now. I'm just in one of those stages where I'm trying to find my next game. I got some good suggestions, so I'm looking at Hellblade. I'm looking at Dragon's Dogma, and I'm looking at something else. I can't remember something else. I wrote it.
I would love to see you play Hellblade, to be honest.
Yeah,
I don't think it's the type of game that I could be myself playing. I cannot do it. It's too much for me emotionally, but I would love to say playthrough.
no, Yeah, I've heard great things, and I mean, I'm going to try it at some point. I have it, like I bought it on sale, and oh, Watch Dogs was the third one. I was going to make like a fourth attempt at Watch Dogs. I know. That's another game where I'm like, I should like this, but it's Ubisoft, so I can't. But
I actually I commend you for for like continuing to give games a try, because people just give up outright. And I have had games where oh, this is my fifth time giving this a try, and it finally clicks, and then it's beautiful, man, and then you're enjoying it. It's great.
It happened with you too with Horizon.
Horizon, yes. When I started out, I wasn't feeling it, and then I restarted, and I was like, okay, cool, now I get it.
well, it's like me with the first-person Fallout games. Like that took me
too.
several tries, and then Fallout 3. The key was like blocking everything else out and just really focusing on this game, because like that's my problem is like I'll try something again, but I won't really be invested. Whereas if I'm like I am going to focus, and I did that with Metro, where I was like I'm blocking everything else out. I'm playing this game. I don't have a stream going off to the side. My phone's turned upside down. I'm just locked in, and then it's like you're dead. Oh, you're dead again, and I was like fuck this shit. So yeah, so that's it. Anthony, what you got?
So I had a similar sort of thing just because I had just finished two big games with Nier and Zelda, where nothing else was really sticking. And the only thing that I was doing off and on was Metroid Return of Samus, which I'll mention briefly just because there's something about that game that I hit Area 3 and the difficulty is at the point where if you're just trying to explore, which to me that game is about exploration. If you're just trying to explore and you just bump into the wrong enemy, it's taken off like a full energy tank on you.
Oh, it's like Elex.
And it's just there's something I looked online because that was making me feel like, oh gosh, man, I must really suck at these games. Like I've never turned down the difficulty on a Metroid game. And I looked online. Apparently, that's like the worst area in the game. Like that's a weird, awkward spot where you can just take damage ridiculously quick, and you just need to get like a couple more items. So that was sort of failing to grab me, and I turned to my SNES Mini that I got a few weeks ago or whenever the hell it came out, and I hadn't really spent much time at that except to mod it, and I had thrown a bunch of games on there. The only game that I'd really put any time into was actually Ninja Turtles 4, and that's just because my son was obsessed with both Ninja Turtles, and I was obsessed with trying to find co-op games that were easy enough for him to play.
You're doing it right, Dad.
Mm-hmm.
I had thrown all these RPGs on because what's the first thing you do when you mod a system? You're like, oh, what's this missing? And every single game I was adding was pretty much a role-playing game, like all the Final Fantasies, and the biggest one was Chrono Trigger, which
Yeah.
of all my big sort of childhood, I put on a pedestal games. So like FF6, I played through multiple times. FF7, I played through once I got it on Steam. Chrono
Wait. Wait. No, I know you finished FF7 on PlayStation.
No, I'm saying of all my childhood games, I played through them more than once.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Chrono Trigger, looking back, I played through I played through New Game Plus because keep in mind this was back before YouTube. I actually played through to get every ending because I couldn't look them up anywhere, so I had to do them myself. So I just kept on going through the New Game Plus. So I guess of all the games, that was the one I was burnt out the most. I tried playing through it on DS, so I have the DS copy, but that's really been the only re-release of it besides a really crappy phone port.
And PlayStation.
So yeah, emulators was always the way, but I don't know about you. I've never been able to sit down and play through a game on an emulator, like start to finish. For whatever reason, there's something about it that doesn't feel pure, and it's not even being high and mighty about it. It's just it doesn't feel that same way that I would if I was playing it the way it was intended, quote unquote.
It's the same thing with me, and when you think about it, the SNES Classic is an emulator, but there's something about it that it's like
legitimize
doing a loophole in my brain where I don't feel guilty.
And that's the thing that got me. I started up Chrono Trigger, and it just grabbed me, and that's what's been so surprising to me is I mean, it's so easy to play. You hit the power button just like you're hitting it on a real SNES. You have the real controller in your hand, and it's on a TV. Which hell, the original time I played through Chrono Trigger was on like a 13-inch TV in my room. So it's mind blowing to me to be playing through this again, and hearing the musical tracks from that game again. I mean, it nearly brings you to tears.
In a
It's
good sound
weird.
system.
Oh my god, that it's remembering. It's just a very very surprising thing that I cannot wait to get back to play that more. And I played through it so many times, but something about playing that on the SNES Classic, there's just something different about that. So I know there's probably a lot of people in their mid 30s or so right now that really grew up during the SNES times, and we love to talk finally about like, oh, it had the best RPGs ever. Like this is the first time I've been able to really revisit any of them and just dive straight back in with all the positive feelings that I had when I originally played it. So to me, I know it's silly that it took like a little plastic reproduction to make it somehow click in my brain differently,
Yeah.
but it's worked. And here's the funny part about it. So I brought up playing Ninja Turtles with my son. I thought that would be the most boring thing on earth to watch. So my son loved watching Breath of the Wild. That I completely understand, right? It's something that you look at, it's visually interesting. Both him and my daughter, who are 5 and 4, saw Chrono Trigger and immediately just sat down and started watching it. And it's weird because I would never expect that. So it actually turned into a weird like live reading. So like the text boxes are popping up. Neither of them can read, obviously. So I'm like doing the voices of all the characters and everything and just like reading through it. The first time one of them popped in was during like the whole trial scene where you're on trial after the first thing. So I'm going through the not guilty. And I'm just like, and you hear the cheers and you're just like, yeah.
So the dad of the year, dude. Did it right.
It's been the weirdest experience where it's just like so surprising. Or I had to pause and wait until my son was able to come down and watch because I got to Magus and I was just way under leveled because I was just like plowing through the game. I was like, sorry, we can't beat him tonight. I did basically go and power level the next day and then be like, all right, now I think we're ready and hop back in. So that's been taking far and away the most time of any game this past week. I've just been having a blast playing through it again. So it's weird because it's so old, but I just thought it'd be interesting to bring up just because it's that stupid little plastic rectangle that's the reason that I can suddenly get back into these games. And I don't know if I'm just like that where I couldn't get into emulation, but it's proving to me to be a perfect way to revisit the past. And for those concerned, because Chrono Trigger doesn't come on the SNES Mini, it is super super easy to add your own games. And I'm not advocating this for people like being cheapskates or skimping out or blah blah blah. You know, this is just there is no. If there was a way to get this on Steam, I'd say go buy it on Steam. But there's just no way to get some of these classics and play them in a proper way without doing something like this, which is unfortunate because the Switch would be perfect as well. I mean, like if they brought out a package of all the games or whatever, I'd rebuy the SNES mini games on the Switch just because I'd love to be able to play it in that way. But the only other stuff, go ahead.
I just want to jump in just for a moment. I think Ernesto knows what's coming. So it's funny. This is one of those cases where I'm the utter outlier in this regard because I have a deep love for the Super Nintendo Square days. And actually it's funny because a lot of it, like I wasn't around for a lot of it. Like I was out just being a wild teenager. And it wasn't until like the launch of the PlayStation that I came back to gaming. Regardless, I still have a huge advantage over you all, which is that I'm basically dead inside. And so I'll say it so Ernesto can hear it. But yeah, like the advantage I have over you all is that I'm basically dead inside. And I don't have the need for the plastic trash that you all do. You know, I don't buy the magic figures that go on the piece of shit and then make some shit happen in a game. I don't buy the little plastic shitty reproductions like the glorified Raspberry Pi. That every sane person I know was like, I need to like bleed out and gouge out my own eyeballs in order to get this thing. And I'm like, dude, give me like $40. I'll make you a Raspberry Pi that does all this. But I'm not denigrating you guys. Aside from this, I have a lot of respect for you all. You know, and
So,
like
so
I just
well, to be fair, I'd say there's a couple of key things that make it work for me. One is I flip the power button and I'm playing. Two is it's on a TV versus on like a PC. And three is that it's the actual controller. So I know that there's supposedly like the 8-bit do or whatever. There's a
Mhm.
company that makes like really good controllers. So to be fair, if I had a Raspberry Pi with an authentic like wireless SNES controller, I might have been able to have like the same type experience if the boot to getting in the game time is similar to what I remember.
I mean I get all that. I appreciate that aspect. You all are still weak and lack constitution. Um,
Being
You know.
weak is actually a really good segue into the, the
all right. I can't wait to hear this.
So for a long time, and maybe you can relate to it. My gaming time has been very sporadic. So it's been rare that I'm like I have 2 hours to sit down and play a game. So I got to playing like a lot of the mobile games and phone type stuff. So two of them that I've been playing basically since they launched. One of them is Final Fantasy Brave Exvius, which is a completely made up word, but it's essentially if you would take Final Fantasy and then charge somebody for the chance to get a character, which sort of
Okay.
plays into all the new stuff that's going on. And the other one that's even more relevant is Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes.
Oh,
We-
this is the thing you had a wild hair up your ass about earlier. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so Final Fantasy, I'll just mention really quick. So they release all your nostalgic characters, but then they charge you for a chance to get them. And this is going to be relevant with something that I bring up with Star Wars in a second.
That's
So-
incredible, dude.
Yeah, so you can get a ton of currency for free. But for instance, like they had this nostalgic FF7 event. So they normally have an event so you're playing through a reproduction of a chunk of a game that you loved as a kid. And then if you want to get the characters from that game, you can do what's called like a quote unquote summon, which takes the in-game currency. And that summon has a certain percent chance to yield the appropriate rarity. A, it has to yield the rarity of the character that you want. And B, it has to roll that character. Completely random. You might as well be pulling the arm on a slot machine. Here's where that gets interesting. So hop over to Star Wars. Star Wars, the mobile game, is doing much the same thing. And yes, this is an EA mobile game. Except they do it a little bit differently. They've been doing loot boxes since it launched in December 2013. So when we talk about, or crap, was it 2014? I apologize.
SWTOR, it's funny, the SWTOR, same thing.
So the way that this would work is you draw a pack and you don't get a character, you get shards of a character. So a character may take 80 shards, and the pack will say, well, you can get between 5 shards and 300 shards. Well, if you're not on Reddit, you don't realize that 5 to 300 means 99.5% of the time you're getting 5.
Oh,
Mm.
And that's basically been the whole predatory thing in the mobile space that gives it such a stink. And that's the big thing that bringing up Battlefront 2, they really adapted everything that they've been guinea pigging us on in the mobile game and then threw it into a $60 game. And that's why it's insulting. So a couple of things from that I thought were really interesting. One, Battlefield 2 sales apparently tanked wildly, which I love. And it shows that basically mobile gamers are weak-willed compared to console gamers, because if we wouldn't have put up for this shit, they would have stopped it 2 years ago.
Right.
And two, Apple, because of that backlash, just put into effect a couple days ago that all games must disclose their actual rates.
I think they
So-
were forced into that by a decision in the UK.
In
No,
China, they displayed the dropping rates.
Maybe maybe that was it.
Yeah, so I really look forward to in the next week or so. So there's a lot of crowdsourced data to suggest stuff. I really want to see what the actual rates of some of this shit is, because you hear all the time about people that get like, it sounds so like weak-willed, but it is preying on people who have a gambling addiction.
Yeah.
Because this is
Mhm.
truly gambling. So when you hear about somebody that spent like 16 grand, there's a post on Reddit for the Final Fantasy game that I brought up. Somebody that went 16 grand in debt
Wow.
and had to like
That's
fess up to his family that he had secretly maxed all these credit cards and shit. And that was just to get the new characters as they were coming out. And that's the catch, is that like I love some of these mobile games. The actual like gameplay loop of them, like the Final Fantasy game I brought up, it has some amazing strategy in the actual Final Fantasy fights. The catch is they're preying on your nostalgia, just like the Star Wars game is. They bring out these new characters and they're preying on your nostalgia. And you don't realize before you get into it that these characters, unlike even Battlefront 2, where it would take like 40 hours, 60 hours to unlock something, these are literally 500 to $1,000 if you're maybe average luck for like a
Wow.
single character, a piece of your childhood. And it's just weird because it's a shame. I really want to, as a gamer, have those things as options for when I don't have 2 hours to sit down and play a game. But it's become so corrupted with this gambling mindset. And it's obviously working because they're trying to bleed into console games, which is really unfortunate. But if there's anything positive, maybe that they were that greedy to try it and console gamers don't put up with it. Maybe it'll have the reverse effect and sort of trickle back down. That's sort of what I'm hoping for from this whole Apple thing. And hopefully
Yeah.
knowing the odds will prevent somebody from taking out a mortgage to get a character when they see that it's 1 in a million chance to get some of this crap.
So
Yeah.
now the interesting side of this is that this has been in the MMO space for years. I mean, this loot box stuff and like this all like the anger over this in 2017 caught me by surprise, because I was like, I've seen this in SWTOR like going back years now. And
So
What's
wait, but
interest-
the loot box aspect of those has always been gear related though, right?
well, yeah, it's mixed.
That's mixed.
Okay, so it's mixed. All right, where you can get gear, but then you can also get like XP boosts and shit like that. Now it's not as crippled as Battlefront 2, where, as I understand it, your progression through the game is hampered if you don't buy loot boxes. Like I think that's correct. But what's interesting in the MMO space is like this has been around for a long time, but the economics of it are a little different. Where in the MMO space, in each game with these real money purchases, like in game, there's a small number of people that they refer to as whales. That where there's like a fraction of a percent that actually spend most of the money. And the way that these games are built is that the rest of the player base is treated as content for those whales. And so they'll feed the larger base of the game whatever they need in order to keep playing, in order to satisfy those whales that are dropping $16,000 and whatnot.
Where I think that it takes a little bit of a different step, specifically to the two games that I've been playing, is that the actual characters are locked behind this. So
Yeah.
on top of that, it's feeding on your nostalgia, and that's where I think that they stepped across the line in Battlefront 2. So
Mhm.
you could not use Vader, you could not use Luke. I mean, those are pieces of your childhood where you're like, hey, why why is this dude getting to do it because he spent more money and got lucky on top of that? Like, that's not fair. Like, he got Luke for $30 and it's going to take me 200. Like, what? Why is that?
Well, now, like there was stuff. So I'm a subscriber to SWOTOR, right? So I get a free amount of space bucks every month, and what I usually do is I just bank them. Like I don't, I don't buy a lot in that game, but I bank them and bank them and bank them. But there was a time a while ago where they like Revan's armor, you could get pieces of it in the loot boxes. And so what I did was I was like, I'm not buying this shit. I'm not spending fucking anything on these things because you can only buy the loot boxes with real money. You can't buy them with,
The space bucks.
well, the space bucks you can buy with real money, right?
Okay.
And so, but like if you're not a subscriber, you've got to pony up, and then get lucky, and you've got to get each piece of the armor. So it's not like you can just get the whole suit in a loot box. You've got to keep gambling. So, but there's also an auction house that where you can use in-game currency to buy from the auction house. And so one of the things that I do to make money in the game is I'll bank a whole bunch of space bucks, go buy like 40 of the loot boxes, and then just put them up for sale on the auction house. And then people pay stupid amounts of in-game currency for it. And then I take that in-game currency, and then I can actually go buy Revan's armor from the auction house. And so it's this weird, and like, I don't know, it's this weird convoluted system. But to Tony's point, that's extreme and obnoxious, but it's not as bad as having Luke Skywalker locked behind a paywall, which that's just
or the Final Fantasy side. So they brought out the FF7 event. So with that came a quote unquote like banner is what they call it when they release characters. One of them where they added Cloud to the game, and they have what they call a rate up on Cloud. So I had saved for however long, like you get a ton of free currency, and that's how they get around it. They're like, see, and I can clear all the content, but nostalgia wise, I'm like, oh, I want Cloud. So I blew all like my free content or like free currency, didn't get him. Right. And that's what kills you is you can hop on YouTube and there's videos of just people pulling these things, just like there are videos of people opening card packs and stuff.
God, who would want to watch that?
Well, it sucks when you're like, yeah, every single person that's there is like getting the character that you want. So you keep thinking like, oh, it's just one more, right? But at the same time, then you see people posting and everything like, yeah, I just spent $1,500 and didn't get it. So that's where what everybody's sussed out is essentially the rate of getting, if you want to just pay for a pull, which if you were to buy it would cost you like $3 for one pull, you would have a 0.5% chance of getting Cloud. And that's, and here's the catch is when you get into the math side of things, 0.5% is so low that to brute force it, like it may take you ungodly amounts above like the median number that it would take to normally pull something of that chance. Like that chance, you're looking at 200 pulls, right, on average. But you're going to have those outliers that are so far outlier compared to if say it was like 10% or something like that. So that's where I find it interesting is if they published that and that was official, how many people would get suckered into it? So that's sort of my hope for a lot of this stuff getting published. I find it unfortunate because I really think that there's some great games. Obviously, I'm playing these games for a reason. I actually enjoy playing the games. I just wish that something would happen that I'd be happy to buy the game for $60. Like I actually enjoy both those games enough. Even though they're on a phone, I'd pay $60 for them. But there's no
Don't
option.
say that, dude, because Square Enix already charges too much for their fucking mobile games anyway. We're gonna.
But this is actually a new game that has good content versus just a crappy unsupported port. So it's something that I still will play these games. I played them for a couple of years. I just figured I'd bring it up just because it's been the one constant there, and in the way that it's hitting the news, I found really interesting. And I think they're well worth playing. It's just damn, I can't believe how much it's messing with people's lives. And hopefully we're getting to a point where there is something forced that will at least help people that are suffering from that side of things.
And hopefully people see that 0.05 and go, oh hell no, fuck this.
Yeah,
Well,
definitely.
when they charge $150 for Final Fantasy 15 on the iPhone next year, it's Tony's fault. So okay, let's take this last 27. Well, we'll say we can go a little past 10 o'clock if we need to. I just want to do a quick roundtable about the games that are circulating in each of our heads in terms of the best games of this year. Like not in any particular order, just like the games that are running through your head, and then like maybe we can talk a little bit about maybe the most underrated games of this year, the most overrated games of this year, just to nothing real deep, just kind of a general discussion. So Pamela, we'll start with you.
Me, I think one of the most underrated games that I wish that it could have more exposure, that I think is one of the best games that I played lately, is Pyre. So that's one of the picks for my game of the year. I just wanted to point it out because right now when you have games such as Horizon, Breath of the Wild, Mario Galaxy, Nier Automata, we have such big titles that indie games have been kind of like sold a little bit, like sink a little bit. But I think Pyre is something that it really touched my heart. So
Would you
that
put
would
in your
be my
top
pick.
three?
My top three, Pyre, Breath of the Wild. Even though I haven't played it, I just enjoy watching Ernesto play it, and I'm thinking if Santa Claus is nice with me, if I've been good, probably I will play in my winter break and Persona 5.
Persona, yeah. It's funny, like that's a game I forgot even came out this year. Because it came out pretty early, didn't it?
It came in April?
March.
Because March was just
Yeah,
insane. Like March, I think it was Zelda, Horizon Zero Dawn, Mass Effect, Torment, Persona,
everything.
and then there was like this, and then luckily there was this like period of months afterward where like nothing came out, so that we all had time to actually play through all those games. What about you, Ernesto?
So man, I it's been so hard to narrow it down to three, so I'm just gonna.
If you want to go over three, just go over three.
Yeah. Breath of the Wild is definitely there. Persona 5 is definitely there. These are two games that took me 200 hours to beat, and probably some of the 200 hours of like the most happiest hours of my life. And then like Pam said, Pyre is such an underrated game. Like it came out and it did a really special thing. I appreciated the kind of like D&D aspect it had of it, because you were a player in this world, and you got to make choices. You got to like talk with these NPCs and get to know them. And each time you would play a new round of the games that you're playing in the story, like you would get to know them more. And it's just such a beautiful game with an amazing story and a great soundtrack. I really want to put it in my top three, but I can't. So it's Persona, Zelda, Pyre, Horizon, definitely. Like I had a lot of fun with it. It's my issue with Horizon was that initial segment where it seems like it's about like a really boring story of tribes fighting with each other. It's not as interesting, and it almost lost me. But then once you see the real story, that's when it gets so awesome. And like from there on until the end, I was hooked. And then the other one is Resident Evil 7. Like it like relaunched the franchise. I'd never expected it to do so well. The way it goes into first person, but it retains the tropes of Resident Evil that make that it's a true Resident Evil, even though it's so different. So I really appreciate it. So that would be my top games fighting for Game of the Year.
So what do you feel is the most underrated game this year?
Shoot, man, I would have to say either it's between Pyre and Hollow Knight.
Oh, Hollow Knight. Okay.
Like Pyre, both games are both are indie games that everybody who play them love them, but you don't see people talking about them like in Game of the Year talks. And man, like Hollow Knight is really good. I haven't played that much, but it's so well made, and I think it's because it's the PC curse, like Divinity. Also, another great game that's because it's only on PC. The mainstream people don't play it, so they don't even talk about it. And Divinity, what little I played, has been so amazing, man. So yeah, actually, it's those three are the most underappreciated games of this year. Pyre, Hollow Knight, and Divinity 2.
Yeah.
So, in my case, and then we'll get to you next, Anthony. Since we're doing reverse alphabetical first name to keep it fair week to week. This is such a hard. I have never had more difficulty with this topic than I have this year. And in my case, I mean, Divinity Original Sin 2 was just such a transcendental experience because I have never seen a case where I'm going to use air quotes first because it's actually like the 5th or 6th Divinity game. But the first Original Sin was a great game that had some serious flaws. To the point where I was telling folks, like, well, how much time for aggravation do you have? Do you have like 70 or 80 hours free to be aggravated?
Me and Pam played the first Original Sin. And we tried it, man. We gave up. Like it got so obtuse, and
It was really clutter.
Yeah.
It was an overload.
Well, and it's funny because Ernesto, you and I have that running joke about checking forums, and that's a game where like you need to have a window open.
Yeah.
In forums because that game, like, you know, it insists that you don't think like a gamer,
right?
And it kicks you in the teeth every time you do, and it's unforgiving as hell. I finished it, and I finished it with a fucking other window open, with forums and like strategy guides and all this stuff. Like, because I hit a point where I was like, "Fuck it, I just want to finish this game."
That's how I play games like Grim Fandango and Day of the Tentacle. Like,
oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's the same basic principle. But the first game did combat really well, and some of the puzzles were very clever. But the story was kind of like the story never really grabbed me. But like that was almost like Zelda for me, like the way that you guys talk about Zelda, where like the mechanics really drew me in. So jump to Original Sin 2. Every single flaw from the first one has been addressed and fixed. On top of that, the stuff that was already working is improved. So I have never seen a case where that happened. Like, and it happened so flawlessly. I mean, like, they're like, our writing and story was bad in the first one, so what do? Let's bring in Chris Avellone. And his fingerprints are all over the writing in that because it's so dark and twisted. So there's that one. And the Horizon Zero Dawn, like, and what we talked about, I have a hard time being objective about that one, even though I think anyone pretending to be objective about video games is fooling themselves. But yeah, I mean, it was just, you know, I was recovering from surgery for 2 months, and it was about the only thing I could do. And so I had a very deep emotional experience with that game. But on top of that, too, like, it's one of the rare cases where I was actually able to use a controller and feel confident in what I was doing. Like most controller games don't, like, I don't have a level of comfort, but that one I did. Because it was so fluid. Like, it was so good.
Every time I would see you go online on the PS4, I'd be like, I would have to do a double take. Like, is that brain? Whoa, okay. That's so weird.
Yeah. And I may have fallen off a little bit with my PS4 usage since then. But I am limping through Lost Legacy and enjoying it. But that's one where it's like, my wife has to be there, and we have to have nothing we want to watch. And so about once every 2 weeks, we play a chapter of Lost Legacy, which is a fun game. But yeah, and then the other ones that like are kind of flying through my head are Torment Tides of Numenera, Mass Effect Andromeda, Fight Me, and and then Elder Scrolls Online, the Morrowind expansion. And
You making faces.
you know, and
everybody's
and so-
entitled to their opinion.
yes, and mine just happens to be correct.
Ass.
So in terms of underrated, I would put Torment Tides of Numenera in there because that's a game. I mean, okay, let me think. People that wanted it were screaming for it, like including myself. And we were very loud about how badly we wanted that game. And then it came out and it was fantastic. And it turns out there were like 8 of us. And
Just 8
I'll
of
tell you
you
what.
screaming really loudly.
And In Exile pretty much said as much, where they're like, you know, we're really disappointed in how that game sold, and we probably won't make another one. And then
Oh,
like
man,
all
that's hard.
well, and then all 8 of us like hopped on Twitter. We're like, what the fuck, you know? And then we're like yelling at everybody that didn't play it, which is like the population of the Earth minus 8. And I mean, it's just it was such a. Now here's the problem too, and this is an indicator of the time in which we live.
Everybody who bought that game fit in a tweet.
Yeah, you know, and so we were all tagging each other, and yeah, but like the problem with the game, I think, and like I'd be curious to see how this works. It's very little of it is voiced, and it streams like shit because it's walls of text.
Like Tyranny.
And yeah, but it's funny because Tyranny still sold better. But like Torment, like it is the best written game I've ever played, and it really is a lot like an interactive novel. It's a shitload of text, a shitload of decision making. The combat is good enough, and it's just. And I was when it ended, I was disappointed because I wanted more.
Is
And
it short?
probably 30 hours, 35 hours. So for me, it's short.
I didn't
well,
even know
yeah,
you
but-
finished it.
Oh yeah, well, because I kind of blew through it, and it was super compelling, and the best way to describe the game is odd, but like in a good way. It's just you've never played anything like it, and if it hits a decent, actually, I don't even know if it's on sale on Steam or not, but it's a great game, and I've lost a lot of faith in humanity for not buying it, among other things. So yeah, so Anthony, what you got?
So I have not finished a ton of games that even came out this year. So I feel a little weird, like even bringing anything into a list that I didn't play all the way through. On the plus side, though, what I did play pretty much like down to a game this year, I've loved. And the only exception I think was Final Fantasy 15, which came out last year anyway. So it doesn't count.
Was that the very end of last year, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like,
Yeah.
I want to say
December. No, it was December because I remember thinking,
It
"Oh
wasn't
shit!"
in the Game of the Year talks of last year.
Yeah,
But yeah, but
it doesn't
because
really
I-
deserve in the talks.
well, and I remember because I looked at the release date and I was like, "That's a no confidence release date." I was like, Square Enix doesn't believe in this game because they're dropping it right before Christmas, so that reviews can't sit around for long enough. And it was a very divisive game. I'll say that. I didn't
Yep.
finish it.
I finished it, but it's the only reason I bring it up is because I picked a lot of games that were very large time sinks for the most part,
Yep.
and that took up a chunk of first quarter of this year. So it was as far as things that stood out, Breath of the Wild, obviously that's the one I spent the most hours on out of anything this year. Lost Legacy was quick, but I absolutely loved it. And the Uncharted games are another one. I always set those straight to easy mode because the combat's always sort of spotty. But my God, the locales in that game, and it's weird because that's almost like a theme. Like playing through Zelda, it was like, oh my gosh, the locales and the puzzles and everything. And Lost
The
Legacy,
photo mode.
same way, but a little bit different. Lost Legacy, it was while I'm not spamming everybody's Twitter feed with PS4 pictures like Blaine, I really there were a lot of parts in that game where I sat there and just stared at it for like a minute, just like I can't believe they were able to do this.
And the whole time you could have been pushing it out to Twitter.
The whole time I'm like, I'd rather people experience this for themselves. So Lost Legacy is definitely on my short list. Nier Automata is one that I had no desire to play when it came out because I thought I was done with the whole Japanese role playing game aspect because every time I tried to get into one, it was sort of janky, and hence I just finished FF15. So that's definitely a reason to sort of turn yourself off to that genre.
Whoa. Oh, shots fired. Oh my God, I'm a duck.
I
We're a
gave
little bit over here.
He's twisting the blame, my heart.
so Nier, when I got into it, that's also I know it's not underrated. I know it was high critical acclaim, but it still is a drop in the bucket sales wise compared to like an FF15. So I think Nier is definitely underrated because I know so many gamers who I think would absolutely love the game if they played through the story that just skipped over it for one reason or another, whether it be, well, that was too much, it looked too combat heavy, or it looked too difficult, or it looked like it was trying to do too many genres. It's a game that I think in a lot of years I would have missed completely, and I would have been very sad, like now knowing what an experience it was if I had skipped over it. So that goes in probably my underrated category. Everything else I think is fallen in there. I'd say, yeah, it could make a top list, but I think it's more because of the games that I haven't finished. Like I haven't played Mario Odyssey. For whatever reason, I haven't felt the draw to play through it. Horizon Zero Dawn's another one. I ditched that when Zelda came out. I just haven't gotten back around to it. So I think my short list is more based on the games that I didn't finish, but damn, I really think Zelda is going to stick with me past this year. Nier is going to stick with me past this year. Strangely enough, the Doki Doki game that I mentioned is probably going to stick with me past this year, though I would never put that up for like a game of the year type thing. Once again, it's another game that I think people should play through because it's so unique. So now I'm starting
Definitely a
to sound
worthy
like one of
mention.
those. Yeah, I'm starting to sound like one of those like people that only plays indie games and is always trying to push like these obscure games on somebody else.
Play Torment.
Yeah, I'm starting to sound like Blaine, except with at least I'm proposing free games that aren't like walls of text. Oh wait,
Hey, so wait, no. Because Torment is $22.49 right now on Steam. There's no excuse not to buy it. If you'll pay $80 for a piece of plastic, you can pay $20 for fucking Torment.
hey, how's your playthrough of Nier going after you said that you'd give that a try once it was?
No, not until you play. If you play Torment, I will play through Nier. I'm
Ooh.
serious. I am dead serious, and I will live stream the whole fucking thing too.
Yeah.
I mean, what you got? I'm just saying.
I could give you a very real reason, but that's neither here nor there. But I'm on a bit of a spending lockdown at the moment.
Yeah, I know.
So
what's your
I
most?
will get around to it.
What's your most
I will.
underrated game?
I still think I gotta go with Nier for that.
Okay.
I just think that it's more based on the sales.
Yeah, I mean that's fair.
Yeah, especially in just with FF15 and Nier finishing them both this year. One of them sold probably like 5 times as much. And the same thing goes for like a Persona 5. I skipped over Persona 5 for much the same reason I put off Nier. And maybe I should go back to Persona 5. That one I'm still a bit iffy on though.
God, it's so funny because like you're picking Ernesto's favorite games and just like twisting the knife. Like,
Yep.
I don't know. But so in terms of Uncharted, and like we've talked about this in the private rejects group a little bit, but like I love Lost Legacy as a model for every Uncharted going forward.
For sure.
For
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Like it's short, it's sweet. Of course I'm not quite done with it yet, but we're getting close. But it's this nice little self-contained experience that gives you all the best parts of Uncharted without all the filler. Because like 2, 3, and 4 drove me nuts because they were all about twice as long as they needed to be. And because like they're like, oh, this mechanic worked one time, let's do it 15 more times in a row.
Uncharted
And
4 was a great game, but it felt so damn long. Like it burned me out from the series.
yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And it's
And
funny.
that-
'cause
Lost
It's like-
Legacy was really refreshing.
well,
Yeah,
it's funny. 'cause-
no, I love Zelda, but damn, it monopolizes your time. And afterwards, you feel like, oh gosh, that was heavy. But Lost Legacy it's the perfect length.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's funny because Ernesto, I remember you telling me, I was like, oh, I'm going to finish Uncharted 4 and go right into Lost Legacy. And you're like, don't do that. And I was like, no, it'll be fine. It's all good. And then I finished Uncharted 4. I'm like, nothing from Naughty Dog for like, at least some period of time. And then yeah, like
Right.
2 months later, we started playing through it. So, Jeremy says Ghost Recon Wildlands. See, I wish Mark was here because Mark actually played a lot of that. And actually, they had like the recently announced Predator thing for it has me interested to go and try it again.
That's so crazy. Man, I haven't played most of Ghost Recon, but what little I played, I had so much fun. Like I could just
Yeah.
couldn't stop laughing.
Way too much fun.
Well, like that's one of those games where I just have this thing where unless it's SWTOR, if it's mostly multiplayer oriented, I just have a hard time making time for it. But I should get over that. So with Nier Automata and Final Fantasy 15, there's been a lot of chatter on the interwebs about the idea of Yoko Taro directing a Final Fantasy game. He's the guy who did Nier Automata.
I'd be all for it.
Well, and it's interesting because like I've read like sort of think pieces going either way about it, where one of the arguments against it is that part of what makes Yoko Taro great is him working against you're kind of going against the grain in a lot of respects. But if he were to direct a Final Fantasy, Square Enix management would force him to not do that, because they would want him to play safe with the big franchise.
I
Sure.
don't know why anybody would even care though, because what is Final Fantasy anymore? I mean, it stands for nothing at this point.
Yeah,
I don't
can't
know
be
if it stands
anything.
for. Well, man, and see, this is where I'm such a terrible person because I'm such a purist when it comes to Final Fantasy, and so I don't know, but it's funny because like with 12, I quickly adjusted because 12 was so good. And then 13 actually, it's funny, like even though it's not a great game, I still actually played through it pretty easily, even though some parts really dragged. And like I don't know, 13 is where like the firing of Sakaguchi really showed,
Oh, yeah.
because the story was so bleh. But I don't know. I'm curious to see if Final Fantasy 16 is announced in 2018. But
They're too busy. They're still putting out DLC for 15.
Yeah,
there's
they're
a
just gonna
second-
do more DLC now.
Yeah.
there's a second season pass coming.
Although that last
Uh,
episode was really damn good.
Is that
episode
Ignis?
8 news-
Ignis, yeah.
So I'm gonna rebuy it when it hits PC finally because that'll be easier for me to play through.
That's what I'm gonna do the DLC packs. So I'm waiting for the PC release just with everything. I just played through the base game. I didn't buy any of the DLC on PS4.
Because I'm me. I bought the most expensive version of 15 for Xbox One. It plays well. I mean, it plays like any other version of it, but
Except at
Yeah.
a lower resolution.
that's true. No, actually, that's what though. I wonder if there's an Xbox One patch for it.
There is,
Uh,
but it
what's
sucks
that?
just like the PS4 patch or the PS4 Pro patch.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, they give you 3 really ambiguous, like they're like, do you want to play it fast or smooth or high detail?
Oh shit. Anytime those are your choices, that's not good.
I played episode Ignis with the PlayStation Pro. I
Yeah.
didn't see any issues, so they probably just patched it already. But I did hear that when the Pro came out, it had a ton of issues with Final Fantasy 15.
Yeah.
Yeah, the issue is that everything except for fast, they still can't even maintain a steady 30 FPS.
Oof.
That's bad.
So okay, so Ernesto and Pamela, you both enjoyed Final Fantasy 15, and I never hated it. There was no point where I'm like, oh, this game is terrible. Um,
Oh yes, I
but
did. I hated
well,
it in one point.
okay, so as somebody who's kind of blah on it, what is it? What about it am I missing?
I mean, at least for me, as a person, I'm always been a story-driven gamer.
Okay,
For me, story is even more important than gameplay. And at some point, like if your story is so good, I can forgive whatever you have done with the gameplay. And Final Fantasy 15, even though with the plot holes and all this missing information that we are trying to get from those DLC content, that ending just took my heart and ripped it into pieces. The thing is, when I arrived to a certain chapter, I dropped the game and I was like, I'm not playing this. Like, I cannot take it. I hate it. They just did a terrible job here. Like, I was enjoying so much these first episodes, and then suddenly you just throw me this horse shit through like towards me, and I hate it. And I dropped that game for more than 6 months. Like, I didn't. And Nesta will tell me like, hey, you need to finish. I don't need to finish it. I don't care. I don't want to. I will watch a playthrough. I don't want to know about this game until I just kind of have to push myself into it. And towards the last two chapters and a half, I was just like, oh my God, I need to finish this. I need to know. I need to get to the resolution. What is going on? But and that's the problem with the DLC with the DLCs of a Pronto is the Pronto. You can skip that DLC. I mean,
Yeah, the story's not important.
the story is not important. They like gameplay in Square Enix. They don't go in the same sentence anyway, so it's just really bizarre. Um,
So it's funny because in my case, I really enjoyed the gameplay in Final Fantasy, and it's the reason why I kept playing. But yeah, what Pam is saying is because after a point in the game stops being open world and starts being linear, and those chapters aren't really that good. And even though they go by really fast, like the big chunk of the game is the open world. But once she got to that linear part, she's like, "This is not fun for me anymore. I don't
it's
want
a drag.
Yeah. And then the famous chapter 13, which I didn't think it was that bad, but yeah,
I've
I can
heard.
see why people would hate it. Yeah, it's just it has a lot of obstacles. Also, because of the whole mess with Nomura having it for a while, and then Tabata having to take over. Uh, it's they finished the story somehow, but you can see like it's a mess that could have been something so much better. But even with all those complaints, like I know it's a flawed game, it's a very flawed game. I just enjoyed that world. I enjoyed like exploring the world, doing the missions, going fishing, and then yeah, when it was finally time to sit down and finish the story, the ending, like even though I had to like compromise and see past what wasn't there,
Mhm.
I really enjoyed the story.
So here's, without spoiling anything, which it's tough for me to criticize anything without spoiling it. The one thing I will say is that a lot of times I think when I look back, we judge movies, games, whatever, a lot based on who is the main antagonist. How much do I know about them? How much do I care about them? And it really hits home when I'm looking at a game like Chrono Trigger. So
Oh yeah.
having played through that recently, so this I think I can spoil. A character like Magus, right? He's set up as a bad guy, and then you meet him as a child in the past, and you realize that if I was in his shoes, I might have made those same choices or a lot of those same choices.
Mhm.
Or even when you go back to the very, very past and you're killing like this little reptile leader, he's just like, no, it's like, that's, I guess, our destiny is to be extinct. Like he's been fighting and killing the humans, and you're just like, oh, okay, well that was a little different than I expected.
Mhm.
Um, Flip forward to FF15. the main antagonist is one of those. It's almost like a red herring who they set up, but then the person that swoops in, you know nothing about, to the point that they're like, we should probably make a DLC even explaining who this character is, because we never really did during the game.
And sorry.
No,
keep
go
going.
ahead.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
And that's sort of what's a difference between a game I hold in an incredibly high regard and one that I'm just like, like that's a huge flaw. And that's the same thing, even if I look back at FF8, which had its gameplay flaws, but FF8 also had a villain problem. It started off with like Cypher and Squall and that whole thing, and I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. But then by the end of the game, I'm like, can I tell you who the major villain is?
Yeah, FF8 was, yeah.
FF10, same problem.
I hated the story in 10 so much.
Man, I love that game. I'm sorry.
No, and here's the thing is like the spoilers are allowed for 10 because it's been 16 years. But yeah, the whole thing with like this giant ocean turd is my dad, and I'm gonna be angsty as fuck about it. And this girl's gonna die in order to do a thing that protects people or something. And Waka's annoying, and Lulu's okay. And just I don't know, like part of a big problem with that game was Square's uneasy transition into voice acting. And I think that hurt that game a lot. But just the whole, like, I don't know. I was down with like the whole, like, because every single Final Fantasy is angsty teenager save the world. Like every single Final Fantasy, that's what's going on. For some reason, that was much easier to handle when I couldn't hear them.
But it also was much easier when the villain is actually interesting. So
yeah, Sephiroth, Kefka, whoever the fuck in 9,
Kuja,
like
Kuja,
Kuja, thank you.
Yeah, and that's what I think a lot of it is sort of separated. And I'm not even meaning to rag on 15, but I think that was one of the biggest flaws. Like looking back was. And if I look at all the other Final Fantasies, the only one I hold in really high regard that I can't tell you who the hell the main big bad was 12.
Oh, right,
It was the judges, right?
Well, that's the thing is I love the judges, but those were also more in depth from a character perspective. Like they weren't pure evil. So
which is so much more interesting.
Yeah, and I think that's why I like it, but I can't tell you who the last boss was, which is weird. But yeah, the intermediary parts were interesting enough. So it's just an interesting lens to look at it through, and it even goes to outside of Final Fantasy. But it was just something I was thinking about since I'd just been playing through Chrono Trigger, and just why FF15 left a worse taste in my mouth than I think that it should have, because the gameplay wasn't bad with what they were trying to do. The storytelling was okay, but I didn't care for the story overall. And I think that the antagonist was a big reason why.
The thing is, like, because of the nature of the game, or the Final Fantasy 15 is like a ton of things like patched up to make it a final product, and it really suffers from it. Because I think had they been able to like really elaborate on the bad guy, it would have been really good. Because what little is there, like it seems like they tried to do something very similar to Kefka. Like it's kind of the same thing with one other guy being the main enemy, and then this guy who's been behind the scenes all the time turns out to be the real bad guy. And his motivations for doing what he's doing is actually really interesting. It's a really interesting bad guy, but it's not explained in the game.
It's not exposed in the game. It's more like you need to go to forums, you need to search for information like out of the game. Actually, in episode Endless, they give you like a glimpse of his motivations, which I wish it would have been better explained in the main story. Because you can say that it's a more fleshed out villain, but I understand like the portrayal is really problematic at some point.
Well, and I'm really trying to avoid spoiling, but
we just went through. Woo!
That's okay.
I'll just say the main antagonist's interaction with the party is essentially, yeah, we're just kind of cool. We're cool. We're cool. We're cool. Up, I guess it's time for that final fight.
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
Well,
it's a
but, like,
mess.
the whole point about the interesting antagonist, really, actually, that's such a good point because like that helps explain why 10-2 is so much better than 10.
I love him too so much.
Dude, I did too. Like,
What
it's,
do you not? Okay.
No.
sorry.
because 10-2 was brilliant because every Final Fantasy before, and I love Final Fantasy. I absolutely love it. That's part of the reason I get so angry about it. Is like every Final Fantasy before 10-2 was super serious and like super melodramatic. And 10-2 is actually just fun.
Yeah,
Like,
Except for FF 3 and 5. I think it's the ones that they didn't translate were the ones that were meant to be a bit more whimsical.
sure.
yeah, actually, yeah, 5 definitely. Well, the 5 had the part with the drowning creature that was just so heartbreaking. I'm trying to remember what the context was, but there's this moment where one of the characters has their beloved creature drown, and it's just like, oh God, I want to die now. But
Man, what about Science part in 6?
oh my God,
Dude,
with the
I
train.
played,
was-
with the train. I
that was
played
fantastic.
Final Fantasy 6 for the first time this year. Like,
Oh,
yeah, because Final Fantasy 6 is actually a game I have played like 15 times and never like got past a certain part. And this was the first time this year where I actually sat and focused and actually got through it. So it's one of those games for me. And when I got to that part, I was talking with Alex on the phone. I was like, dude, I'm like, my voice was breaking up. This is intense. Like, what the hell? It's so
Yeah.
good.
And it's amazing because they didn't have these huge, like flashy cutscenes or anything. It was just simple sprites that were
Sprites,
cleverly.
great text, and music.
Well, yeah, the music and text, but just like the animations were just right, and it's amazing how much emotion they were able to evoke with 16-bit sprites, some text, and the beautiful Uematsu score. And even in like 16-bit, whatever you call it, the sound quality.
that was the first game that I bought an official soundtrack for off the
Oh.
poster that came with it. So I have one of the very few in existence. You can't even find them on eBay. It's a
Yeah.
US Final Fantasy 3 official soundtrack. It just says Kefka's
Wow.
domain on it.
Yeah, I've
Nice.
seen that. So, all right, guys, let's wrap this up. Actually, yeah, I'm glad we had this final discussion on here because that was good. So yeah, we're like I said, we're all tired, we're all beat up, we're ready to pull the plug on this year, and so this will be the last show until I'm guessing the first Friday in January, and there will be more details forthcoming. Next week's going to be a little quiet, but you will see myself, Ernesto, and Pamela on the streaming side. And then I'll probably kick something out there about like how we're going to do the games of the year. And then I'm guessing we'll push those out sometime around the new year. And I think the format we're going to do is kind of a general, these are the 3 games that got the most votes out of the rejects. And then we'll do each of the rejects individually, maybe in blog posts, maybe in social media posts. I don't know. Like we'll talk internally. I'm leaning towards blog posts just because that way, those of us that are a little more verbose can actually explain some of the things, and it gives me a chance to tell people to go fuck themselves about Mass Effect Andromeda. So, so I think that's it. Thank you all for hanging out. We really appreciate it. We appreciate the people that started following us tonight. And yeah, if you're watching this on YouTube, be a good person. Go to our Twitch channel and hit the follow button. We'd love to hit 50 follows by the end of the year and get affiliate status because that'll let us do even cooler stuff on here. So that's it. So everybody say good night.
Good night, guys.
Good night.
Thank you for watching.
And